Hi everyone, welcome back to another book video. So, I wanted to do a mid-year check-in, and one thing that kind of irritates me a little bit, or a pet peeve of mine, I guess, is everyone doing their mid-year wrap-up at the beginning of June. Um, Halfway through the year is July. Today's actually July 3rd. It is the exact middle of the year. So, I thought it would be cool if we looked at my Libby stats for this year and kind of see what's going on, what stats we have, how many 5 stars have I had so far, and everything like that. So, without further ado, let's get into it. So, for my reading stats, I use Storygraph. So I just went to the Storygraph website, stats, and then I'm just doing for all of 2026 so far. We're only halfway through 2026, so that's what I'm going to get. But I do my reading stats to be 1 page or 1 minute every day to keep my reading streak going. I'm currently on a 75 streak. I lost my 136 one last year and I haven't been able to get back up to it. So my goal is to maintain and get a year-long streak. We're hoping it happens. But for my reading wrap-up, for my contents, I have so far read 40 books, 4,401 pages, 270.65 hours, which that pages goal, guys, we're going to talk about goals in a second, but girly pops, that's a lot of books. My average time to finish a book is about 12 days. Most of my books have been emotional with a value of 29. And then we have a little slope down from dark, lighthearted, reflective, and adventurous. Then we go down to hopeful and funny being tied, mysterious being right below that, tense, sad is inspiring and informative below that, and then relaxing and challenging underneath that. Then for my pace, I read mostly medium-paced books because that's just how I roll. I had 8% slow, so 3 slow books, and then 30% fast, so about 12 books. So I have a little bit of a range here. I have been reading a little bit of faster books, but we'll see what happens. Then for page number, I have 7% have been 500 pages plus, which, woohoo, we love that. About 40% have been between 300 and 499, which is like my sweet spot for a book usually that I can finish relatively quickly. And then we have 53% have been less than 300 pages. This is interesting to me, and I want to look at this and see what books it's classifying these as. It's interesting. So I did read a lot of comics, I will say, so that makes up a decent chunk of my less than 300 page books. But then for audiobook length, we have my giant sweet spot of 8 hours to 15 hours and 59 minutes. And then we have a teeny bit with one with plus 16, which I know what book that is. And then we have less than 8 hours with 2. So not too bad. Still keeping in my sweet spot. For fiction and nonfiction, I'm really proud of myself. I have tried to task myself with reading 1 nonfiction book a month. I haven't exactly hit that every month. Some months I read more, some months I read less, but I have 18% nonfiction. I'm very excited about that. That makes me very excited and very enthused for what's coming and the rest of the year. Genres I think this might be the most genres I have read compared to last year. We'll look at that in a second, but I have 25 of my books have been LGBTQIA+, which we love. Romance is next, 16. I read a lot of queer romance, so that kind of tracks. And then fantasy and young adult are tied. Contemporary and graphic novel are tied. Historical is next, then memoir, literary, and horror is tied, then thriller, mystery, and feminism are tied, and then a tie between science fiction, history, the classics, and speculative fiction, and then a giant tie between crime, comics, poetry, politics, psychology, religion, self-help, sports, magical realism, erotica, dystopian, and gender. A lot of things going on here. Actually, give me a second. Let me pull up my 2025 and we'll do a side by side. Okay, so I've counted out these ones. This is 25. This is my stats for 2025. I had about 23 to 25 categories here. And then over here for this year, I have 30. That's insane. Like, oh my God. That's crazy. For tags, 17 of the books I've read have been from Libby, and one of them have been a new release. I'm hoping to read a couple new releases next month in August. There's a couple books that are coming out that I really want to read, that I'm so excited for. But I'm glad that my Libby percentage has gone up. That's almost half the books I've read have been on Libby, which is really good because I love supporting my local library, and you should too if you're a reader. Support your local library, get a Libby, get some books. Go there physically if you want, whatever. For format, this is interesting to me. If you guys know me, here, we'll look at last year again. Hold on. So this is last year, and we have 83% is audio, only 6% was print, and 12% was digital. I wanted to challenge myself with reading more physical books this year because I have a big physical TBR. I need to get it down because there's books in there that I want to read, that I absolutely love. And then if we look at this year, my audio is only 63% so far, and I'm really excited about that. My print is up to almost a quarter of what I read. I'm so happy. And then my digital also, I still have a ton of digital books that I need to get through. Some of those I'm going to attempt to read this month and next month, but I'm really excited. I'm like, it's so cool. For most read authors, we have Alice Oseman at 4 because I read 4 of the Heartstopper books this year. I'm waiting on the 5th one to be at my library, and then the 6th one comes out in the US in a few days, so I'm really, really excited. And then A. Ray Dunlap I've read 2, so not a lot of repeat authors this year, which is an interesting thing to me because usually I'm very much a series person. That's how I get my repeat authors, although I do have a feeling based off of reading Can't Spell Treason Without T, that Rebecca Thorne is going to become tied with Alice Oseman at minimum right now if I don't get the other 2 Heartstopper books, because I am loving that series. I have the 2nd one. I'm debating getting the 3rd and 4th ones off of Thrift Books, so we're gonna see what happens. Languages, I read everything in English. I'm debating reading some Spanish books, but I will have to brush up on my Spanish so far, and I haven't exactly done that well. I'm starting to do it a little bit more. And then we have our little category breakdown. And let me see if I can... Ooh, zoom in. Oh, this would have been perfect. Hold on. Beautiful. So... we have number of books, pages, and minutes. So I'm going to look at each one of these individually, and then we'll look at them all together. So for minutes listened, I did 2010 in January, and then 3,355 in February, 2,412, and then 1,970, 2,233, and then 4,023. June is the month that I had the most audiobooks. I will say a decent chunk of that was because I had a lot of books I needed to read that were only available on Libby as audiobooks, so that's why I did that. But I'm hoping that maybe we can maintain staying in this, like, between 2,000 and 4,000 mindset, maybe. My lowest month so far has been April, which that makes sense. I was doing a lot of writing for my thesis then. But, like, that's a pretty big up from May. We went from 2,233 to 4,023. Like, that's a 2,000 increase almost. That's insane. Let's look at pages read next. So, January I read a lot. That was because I had read a lot of my graphic novels that month. February I didn't read a lot at 35. And then March we kind of got back into it with 313. April we went back down to 30. And then in May I read 1,905. Now you may be looking at me and being like, hey Zoe, why is it that high? Well, for that, I will tell you, I read The Spear Cuts Through Water that month, which alone was like a hefty book. And then I also finished Crescent Moon Tea Room that month, So, was it that month or was it June? No, it was May. It was May because we're in July now. It was in May that I finished that. And then I also had started some of my other physical books. I read a Heartstopper or two, I think, in May as well. So that boosted up. And then in June, I read Can't Spell Treason Without T. I also read, what else I read physically? I read Wicked Beauty physically, and I think between those two, that gave me my 900 and something pages. We'll talk about goals in a second, like I said, but I want to maybe keep it at like a 800 pages, because that's about like 400 page books. Maybe keep it at that. If I'm only reading one physical book a month, which is my goal so far, I would not mind this being around like 300, 400. But I really enjoy that this is together. But if we look at my minutes versus pages, we can see that when my pages go up, my minutes go down, which that's okay because I'm spending a lot of time diversifying. But also my minutes went up, my pages went down. So we'll see what happens. It's kind of like an inverse relationship a little bit, not exactly, but a teeny bit, you know? But for books read, we put that in here. I read 8 books in January. February and March, we both leveled out at 5. April is my worst month at 3 books so far. And then May, I read 10. And June, I read 9. May and June have been my most free books because even though I'm still in school, a lot of this was just working on my thesis and editing. I was doing research for my job as well, so I didn't have like to teach and to grade and all that. But I'm really proud of this. I want to keep it at minimum 5. We're going to see if we can up that a little bit. But reading 40 books in the first half of the year is kind of crazy for me. I think the most amount of books I've read in a year was 2024, and I think I read 80 books that year. And I think last year I read 69. So I'm kind of on track to get to that 80 books again this year, which, like I said, we'll talk about goals later, but that's kind of crazy. That's glorious. And then we have my star reviews. So we have one at 1.5, a few at 3, but most of mine have been above 3 at a 3.5, a 4, a 4.5, and a 5. But I do want to look at my 5 stars in a second, but we're going to go through the rest of this. So I'm going to go like this. For my 5 stars for 2026, where's the very first one? Okay, we'll go by date. January 8th. My first 5-star was Wash Day Diaries. I got this as a Libby hold on my Libby app. And I really enjoyed it. So these 4 girls and how they go through their lives and rely on each other and friends. And it's really cute and adorable. I liked it a lot. I rated it 5 stars because it really resonated with me at the time. And then what was my next 5-star read? I think it was Semi Well Adjusted Despite Literally Everything by Allison Stoner. So I had watched Allison Stoner growing up. I watched them on Camp Rock. I listened to them on Phineas and Ferb. I had watched them on all different kinds of shows, and I had really wanted to read this book as like a step into like that genre that's coming up of like childhood actors writing books about their experiences. And I really wanted to read Allison's first because I had grown up watching Allison, but also that they are now queer and they advocate for mental health and everything. So I really wanted to see it, and it was great. It was a long book. I had to listen to it kind of like a podcast type thing, which is kind of how I do these nonfiction books. It's like podcast form of like listen to an hour here, an hour there, but it was really good. I really appreciate it. There are a lot of triggers in it, so please, 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 please take care of yourself. But I loved that 5-star. I think my next one might have been Atmosphere. Yeah, my next one was Atmosphere. So Atmosphere I read for a book club that I'm kind of loosely in and out of right now. I read Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This was also my first Taylor Jenkins read. And I guess a funny story about it is I bought the book, but I accidentally bought it in German. So I had to then buy it again in English. And I really liked it. I loved it so much that I got my partner to read it right after me, and he agreed with me that it was a really good book, and we had like a conversation about it and how like the queer story was so good. It's basically These two women work at NASA in the 1980s, and you're following them throughout their lives and how family doesn't always support you that much, and how they take care of their family when need be, and how they're trying to like navigate being like the first women to go in space. And it's really, really cool. The next 5-star I had might have been Can't Spell Treason. Yep, it was Can't Spell Treason without T. I've already talked about this a bunch. This is the first book in the Tomes and T series. You follow Keanth and Reyna as they are both leaving behind their jobs, kind of, sort of, and opening up a bookshop that also sells tea in the town of Tawny. And I absolutely love this book. As I said, I already have the second one. I'm debating getting the third and fourth on thrift books because I can get them kind of cheap, but I'm really excited to read these, and I really hope that they continue being amazing. I've also told my partner to read this as well. I'm just very excited to read it, and I'm very excited to get back into the story. I might even start the second one today. I'm going to be honest. I can just read for today. So we'll see. In my last 2 5-stars, the next I skipped Spear Cuts Through Water. No. Okay. Spear Cuts Through Water. Girlies, read it. That's all I gotta say. I read this for another book club I was in, Fats' book club, Baby Back Books on YouTube. Fats had this up, and it'd been on my list, and another book friend had also been like, this is one of my favorite books. It's basically taking Filipino mythology and telling it like a Greek mythology story, but like it's such a unique book that I don't know if it's ever gonna be topped. I need to read this again at some point. I'll probably read it next year, but like, you need to read it. It cut deep. It's also a queer fantasy book. Ugh. Please read it. It's gorgeous. It's so, like, it says adventurous, dark, emotional. Oh my god, I cried so many times reading this book. It only is like 7 chapters of 522 pages. So I had to stop sometimes mid-chapter, but what happened after I got like halfway through the book is I was just sitting down and reading like 100 pages a day to finish a chapter because I could not stop. The last 2 5-stars I had were actually from this month. It was Unmasking for Life, An Autistic Person's Guide to Connecting, Loving, and Living Authentically by Devin Price. If you guys watched my review, or not my review, but my video from last month, you'll know that I included these two, and you can look at more there. But for a little summarization, Unmasking for Life, basically, I just like to read Devin Price's books. They challenge me to like live more authentically myself as someone who is neurodivergent, and just learning that like even though we can be looked down on in society, that we should just still strive to be authentically ourselves and work out how that is for us. And then I also read Cosmic Love at the Multiverse Hair Salon by Annie Mayer. Oh my god, please read it. It's like Can't One Last Stop, but better is the only way I can describe it. Like, ugh. I want to read both of these books again, and like especially this one with looking through all like the back and kind of like details that happen that you then put together at the end of the book. Ugh, gorgeous. But that is my stats for the year, or so this first half of the year, I should say. I hope you guys are having a great rest of your week. And I hope that you are having a great time reading. If you have any recommendations for books I should read, they're like queer, romantasy-esque, please let me know down in the comments below. But I hope to see you all again very soon, and I hope you liked my little extra book video for this channel. But you might see me again on Twitch, you might see me again on YouTube or Instagram or Blue Sky or TikTok. All the links will be down in the description, as long as my card, which has all my links if you're curious. But I hope you guys have a great rest of your days, and I will see you again soon. Bye!